Hello and welcome to another update video about Bitcoin. On the Bitcoin chart, we haven't really had any changes since yesterday. So what I can tell you though is, and I think I mentioned it in yesterday's video, we already reached our target here for this fifth wave. So we're going to take a look at that now. That was the $31,800 level. That was my minimum expectation. Funny enough, this was also the, I think the July close target that Plan B posted on his Twitter channel. Just a side note, really, 31,800. What do we want to do in this video? We want to take a look at the chart. We want to take a look at the short-term bullish and short-term bearish scenario. And then we also want to talk about Bitcoin dominance a little bit, to also find an explanation for the current altcoin rally. I mean, it was sparked by the news, absolutely, but the Bitcoin dominance chart already told us a few weeks ago that an altcoin rally might start, and we just needed a bit of a catalyst, I guess, which was the news event from yesterday. So looking at the Bitcoin chart, the overall bullish perspective that we have is not hidden. That's pretty obvious and pretty clear and has been clearly communicated over recent weeks, and not only weeks, but actually months. So it's currently just simply following our chart and our wave count. It couldn't do it any better, really. So we had a wave 1 of the November highs here, a wave 2 pullback, another 1-2 setup in our trend reversal area, and then here this latest yellow trend reversal area was also touched a couple of times. We've been waiting over recent days and weeks for one more high on the Bitcoin chart to complete this structure. Few distortions on the lower time frames, but overall, as long as 28,550 was holding, we expected a fifth wave still to happen. The waiting was the correct decision, and to keep that the primary scenario, because we are now seeing that price yesterday fulfilled the minimum expectation I highlighted for this fifth wave. Here, circle wave 5, which was 31,800. Price reached actually 31,870. Okay, so that means minimum expectations for this wave 5 are complete. Does it mean we have to come down now? No. This is where trend comes into play. What is important though is to understand that if we come down, and the right mindset and the right understanding of the analysis is important here. It means that if we come down now, I am happy to call this structure a 5-wave move up, which means that I'm more confident in calling the wave 2 or the pullback that would happen a wave 2. So remember, the primary scenario was we get one more wave up, but the previous swing highs that we had were too shallow. Some people were quite clear that they thought that this would already be the fifth wave, or here the 6th of July high. Yes, this is all possible, but as I said repeatedly, I do not trust anemic, very short and unreliable waves. I'm looking for the ideal structure, and we now have an ideal structure. This can still push higher, certainly 32K, 32.5K in this fifth wave. But the point was, I wanted to see a healthy wave 4 to have more trust into this structure. And it's all going well at the moment. So it's basically just following script higher in this fifth wave of a first wave. Now, this is the primary scenario. So what I can tell you is we already have the minimum expectation fulfilled. Maybe we get one more high on this chart in this current structure. So the Elliott Wave structure tells us we shouldn't really get much more than one high all the way up to roughly 32,800. If it goes any higher than that, we are dealing with the alternative scenario, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But in the primary scenario, again, we could get one more high. At the moment, until I have a decent signal that this rally is over, I would expect one more small high. But again, we only talk about one more high in this structure. So I can really only say that this rally is likely over as soon as we break below the Wednesday low. So that would be $30,200. If we break below that level, I would assume that we have completed wave 1 and that we are in the wave 2 pullback. And I will now add just support. I don't need to adjust support. So support is now all the way down to 26,280. Doesn't mean it has to come down that low, but by the way, I will now move this yellow support area to the left because we don't need it anymore. This one is going to be the relevant one to track. And I will actually also add the 38.2 fib level so that people are not surprised if we get a shallow pullback, because we can get shallow pullback. So support would be 29,150 down to 26,280, which means we need to start to be watching for a possible bounce in a third wave rally from the moment onwards that Bitcoin reaches 29,150. But in the short term, again, we can get one more high. Now, this is the primary scenario. If we break and sustain above 32,800, the idea is that we already did this 1, 2, and that we are already in the third wave. I cannot rule that out for a few reasons. First of all, this wave was very long. It was difficult to count anyway. In the end, it all worked out, but it was difficult to count. So from that point of view, it is hard to really pin down the waves. And if you see or watch different Elliott Wave analysts, you probably see 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different explanations and wave counts here. Now, it's always important not to choose an analyst who's just sort of putting some wave somewhere. I'm talking about someone who's actually very familiar with the rules and interpretations of Elliott Wave. You need some experience, but nevertheless, you will get different interpretations. Yeah. So the importance is that in a third wave rally, we could escalate directly higher. In this case, it's not my primary scenario, not yet. I would need proof because the pullback was very shallow. Okay, so it's a bit too shallow for a wave 2, not to keep it, it's not invalid, but it would be very, very shallow. Now, again, nothing we haven't talked about before. It's the alternative wave count. And basically with that, not what some people think, the wrong scenario, it's actually just the second most likely one. You need to see it that way, okay? So don't see the alternative count as the scenario that I'm not focused on. It's just simply the second most likely scenario that deserves a lot of consideration, especially when you come up with your own trading plan and portfolio management, position management, which is why I often recommend to keep a core position, especially in a third wave rally. So if we take off from here, it's nothing we haven't talked about before. It's certainly a possibility and actually quite likely as well, but it's just not the primary scenario until proven. Now, you cannot predict if we go up directly or if we get a deeper pullback before we go. So you can manage that with tactics, as I said many times. So what you can never predict, you can manage with tactics. Yeah, try to stay in the present. Yeah, don't try to think about what could happen tomorrow. Stay in the present, and then based on the potentials and the highly likely scenarios that we see, make decisions for your portfolio. That's normally how it works, right? So overall, we remain bullish at the moment about Bitcoin, and only a break below 26,280 would change any larger scenario. That's my update about Bitcoin, but let's talk about the Bitcoin dominance chart briefly as well. Not Ethereum, but Bitcoin dominance, BTCD, because we talked about that in a live stream a few weeks ago, and I also showed it here in some of the public videos. Member live stream. The idea was that Bitcoin dominance was going up and that we would get a pullback here in a wave 4. So sentiment was already preparing for that pullback. And now yesterday we had the catalyst. We already saw here on the 30th of June that an altcoin rally might start. I did announce that at the time. I posted it on Discord and Telegram as well, that the altcoins could have a temporary, could outperform Bitcoin temporarily over the recent weeks. And then we could get one more high on the BTC dominance so that Bitcoin takes the lead again before we really start an alt season. So that's all been communicated. So from that point of view also, no surprise that the altcoins are a little stronger at the moment. It was all there and all communicated. However, what is not clear if this really is the wave 4 or if that larger move down has started already. We will not really know that until, I guess, we see a break of the trend line and the break of support. So the idea is now that Bitcoin dominance has a good chance to come back into the area around 45.4% and 48.9%. Be aware that this dominance, an Elliott Wave count on that needs to be taken with a pinch of salt because there are other factors than sentiment that influence it. But yeah, that's just sort of the sentiment. There is a lot of sentiment in there, don't get me wrong. But this is the explanation also why we see this altcoin rally. And of course, it needed a catalyst. And yesterday's news event was certainly the catalyst, but it was already prepared in the, let's call it, the sentiment of the masses to start a bit of an altcoin rally. Yeah, that's my update about Bitcoin. Hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then please check out the membership. Here you can get access to weekly live streams, learn a lot about Elliott Wave, daily signals, Elliott Wave signals for gold members. There are some stocks and shares for gold members we update, chat room access, and lots of stuff about Elliott Wave, trading, TA, and so on. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.